Alrighty, so in today's video, we're doing a comparison of motion track on the Skydio 2 versus the Autel EVO. Can the EVO 2 keep up with the Skydio 2? Let's find out, so stick around. What's going on, everybody? Ken here, you're watching Original Dobo, and I am losing my voice if you can't tell. So I apologize in advance. So I'm not gonna do a whole lot of talking in this video, but I've got a tremendous amount of test footage for you all. So we're gonna get into that really swiftly. So really quickly, a lot of people are curious as to how the obstacle avoidance and the tracking capabilities are on the Autel EVO against obviously the reigning king, the Skydio 2. Skydio set the bar incredibly high on the obstacle avoidance and tracking capabilities with their drone. Now, with that being said, I went ahead and tested out dynamic track two different ways. There's two versions of dynamic track in the application. You have parallel track, which means it should track you along the side. And then you have motion track, or I should say dynamic track, which can be from the front or the rear. But I'll go ahead and play these clips for you between both of these. I used a beacon at one point and then I switched over to just the phone. But for the EVO, it just visually tracks you. So you'll be able to see all the clips. They're all labeled in the far right-hand corners and left-hand corners of the video. So if you're curious about what's what, check those corners out. It'll give you the information that you need. It's a fairly long piece, nothing super scientific. It's just meant to give you a good baseline. And I'll be back at the end to give you some explanations and some thoughts of it all. Alrighty, so after looking over this footage, yeah, I'm not really impressed with dynamic track on the EVO 2. I'll be real with you, I was not impressed with the EVO 1 dynamic track either. Now they did make some vast improvements over the first generation EVO, however, it's still not there yet. There's still some fine tuning that needs to happen to make dynamic track a little bit more robust. For starters, we need to have some granular settings to be able to change so that we can adjust where we want the drone to track us and how fast and how far it is capable of tracking us. Right now, there's really no sort of measurement of how far you can move the drone back before it loses visual sight of you. I would also love to see it track us via the controller, not just the drone, so you have a bit of redundancy, sort of how Skydio does. Now with the Skydio 2, I really don't have anything bad to say about what it did. Now in this situation where we used the tracking, it did great in both the beacon and the phone itself. I have zero complaints. It was able to keep up with me on both occasions, and I didn't go faster for one or the other. I treated them both the same. If anything, I was a little bit harder on the Skydio 2 just because I knew that it could handle it. The EVO 2, on the other hand, it did a fairly decent job of avoiding obstacles, which I am impressed about. It did dodge that tree several times, and it did mine the wires, which I thought for sure that was going to be a catastrophe. So as far as obstacle avoidance goes, it's definitely top notch. If anything, it's almost too aggressive, and I hope that they tune it to be a little less aggressive, which I thought I heard them say that they were. So obstacle avoidance is actually pretty solid on this. Obstacle avoidance on the Skydio is amazing. If you try to crash either one of these, you will succeed. But if you just fly it like normal and use your just common sense, you're not gonna crash either one and you'll have a great experience. But when it comes to tracking, the Skydio 2 takes the cake and you're just not gonna find a better drone. But one of the things to keep in mind with that, you can't just fly this whenever you want. As to where the EVO 2, you can take this up at any time of day. It doesn't matter, you'll be able to fly. That's one thing I can't say for the Skydio 2. And when I'm physically controlling the EVO 2, you can render some pretty smooth results. As to where the Skydio still has a little bit of roboticness to it, but it sort of fits the vibe of the drone that it is. So if you're filming yourself and that's all you care about, definitely the Skydio 2 would be my first choice. As far as camera quality goes, we'll do a deep dive comparison on both of these, but just a preliminary, and again, this is not the best environment to be testing that, I did prefer the Skydio 2's camera only because it did a better job with the shadows and the highlights and being able to balance both of them and maintain a really reasonable contrast without a mushy image. This EVO did a good job in automatic. Both were filmed in 4K 60, but I just felt that the Skydio's colors were just a little bit more appealing. The good news is all of this is fixed via firmware, so hopefully again, Autel is watching these videos and they'll be able to address that. I'm not trying to turn anybody off from the EVO. If you absolutely love it, you're going to love it. And again, this is the 8K version and not the Pro, so I'm almost certain that the Pro version will definitely render better results and people will probably be a lot more satisfied with that than they will with this. But the good thing is if you do end up with the 8K and you're not satisfied with the camera, you can take the camera off and upgrade it at a later date. So you're not totally stuck. As where the Skydio, you're stuck with what you have, you cannot upgrade the camera and you're limited to just daytime use, which for many pilots, that's probably not gonna be a big deal, but it's just something to consider. Also, you're getting 20 minutes of flight time versus 40 minutes of flight time. Again, that's not a comparison we're going to want to make today, but it's just some things I want you to consider after seeing the obstacle avoidance performance from each of these drones. All right, I think that's gonna about do it. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments section. At this point, I think my voice is spent. I'll see you next time. Stay original.